David, great to see you as always. Thank you for making a bit of time to come and have a chat with me. I want to kick things off with a question that I'm sure quite a lot of people will start thinking as soon as they start realizing what you do. I mean, you're in the business of making people that agencies that run Google ads, you're in the business of making them redundant, really. I mean, just explain how that works to people, will you?
Um, yeah, okay, that's quite strong. I think making redundant is quite strong. I would probably say augmenting, at least for now. What we do is try to optimize Google Ads performance. Up until now, there's normally big teams of people doing that, or agencies. We're trying to, I guess, make that more efficient and actually make it perform better using AI agents. So.
Yeah, yeah. No, and I think it's of the moment, isn't it? I mean, it's a great application of AI in the kind of world of marketing, it seems to me. So before we get into the details of your business, I mean, tell us about why you wanted to be an entrepreneur. What is it about entrepreneurship that kind of motivates you?
That's a good question. That's a really good question. I think, I mean, there's so many ways of possibly tackling that. I think for me personally, being able to work for myself, being able to do things on my own terms, um, was probably one of the most important things, I think. Second to that, and it does sound a little cliche, but I do think it's true, is having some kind of an impact on the world, doing something a bit outsized that I probably wouldn't be able to do within the confines of a job. And kind of trying to make my own way of doing that. Um,
Mm.
I think building a technology product is quite a fast track way of doing that if you can get to a lot of people. So I think the combination of being able to be on my own terms and do what I want, but also doing something that I think will have a pretty cool impact on the world. I think those two
Okay.
things.
And let's, I mean, that's a really interesting point, the thing about impact. I mean, quite a lot of entrepreneurs are interested in having it. I mean, tell me what that impact looks like to you in terms of what you're trying to do with this business. I mean, give us a flavor of what that would mean to you.
Good question. I think, I mean, what we promise and what we try and deliver on is the idea of basically giving people a better return on their marketing spend, right? If we can make more businesses more profitable using Google Ads, um, at a much cheaper cost than they would have been able to do before, then I think that's quite cool. Helping other businesses grow. Um, I think for now we're just starting with Google Ads. I think in the future we'll probably try to expand that to other platforms.
Right. Right.
Um, but I think that's a pretty cool, I guess, pr promise to try and deliver on, which is making more people more money using
Yeah.
ads.
Yeah. I mean, and you know, we need that. I mean, it's profitability that generates jobs and all the
Exactly.
rest of it, doesn't it, really? So, I mean, well, thank you for that. I mean, in terms of, let's just think about you as the CEO. I mean, I mean, being a CEO is quite a tough gig in my view, particularly when you're in trying to build a global business. Because there are good days and there are bad days. You know, I mean, it's like people always say to me, it's like riding a quite a powerful roller coaster. What is it about that that motivates you to kind of get up every day and ride that roller coaster? Because there are plenty of easier things you could do with your life.
It's very true. It's very true. I think at least in my particular case, it comes down to personality type. I think I've always been quite driven, quite stubborn. I think quite stubborn.
Okay. Okay. I get
Um,
that. Yeah.
so now I'm on this. There's no backing away. There's no coming down. And you're right. It is a roller coaster. There are some really good days. There's also some bad days where
Yeah.
things go wrong. Um, Generally, I try and almost block out both the good and the bad, and just keep going forward. I think that's an important thing I would say.
And picking up your point about moving forward, I mean, one of the things that interests me about the job of the CEO is that one of the most important things you have to do is kind of cut through the noise so that you can work out exactly what things you're going to focus on that will move you forward. I mean, certainly my experience is that it's very easy to be distracted. I mean, how do you kind of cut through all that noise? How do you work out what are the things that you need to focus on to build your business? I mean, how do you work through those issues?
Yeah, it's tough. It's really tough, and I'm not here to claim I think I have all the answers on that. Um, at least for now, where we are at as a business. the most important thing that's on my mind 24/7 is building the best product possible. So that I spend a lot of my days with the engineers, like in yeah, in the trenches, talking to customers, thinking how can we make this the best like Google Ads product on the market right now. That's the only that takes up I think most of my time. I think now as we're starting to get that more right and now starting to, I guess, come out from the shadows, the next big thing to try tackle is distribution. How do we get this to the most number of people possible? And how can they hear about us? So now that's starting to become a bigger part of my day. But up until now, all I have thought about is product, product, product. Because ultimately, especially in the business we're in, it's all good attracting a customer. But if they don't stay on because they don't see the
Yeah.
performance gains, then I don't have a business, right? So that's kind of how I think about that.
Yeah, no, I get that. And you touched on getting down in the trenches with your team. I mean, one of the other interesting responsibilities of the CEO, I mean, the job of the CEO is to get the right people on the bus, to use that phrase. I mean, what's your take on how you get the right people on board? Because if you don't get the right people on board, you're not able to scale, are you? So tell me about that. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, hiring is hard. Hiring is really hard. Um, Hiring particularly, I mean, software engineers, I think are also, I think one of the hardest things to hire for. Yeah, I've had hundreds of interviews probably for just one role, because there's so many things to select for. I also think the nature of the software engineering role is changing, and that's because of AI, right? I think today you can do with one software engineer who's powered by AI, they can do what probably five software engineers were doing maybe 5, 10 years ago. That's a fact. So it's tough to hire because you have to hire not just on ability, but there's also so many other like intangibles that you need to try and get a sense of in an interview. We're also a fully remote company, fully distributed, so we've got people all over the world, which means a lot of the people I've worked with I've actually never met in person, um, which is interesting. So you do have to try and get a good sense of what that person is over a Zoom call. Um, I think so far we've done a pretty good job of that, but it's definitely it's not easy. It's not easy. Yeah, I think that's what I would say on that
Yeah.
one.
And once, I mean, I think a lot of people would say that. I would certainly agree with that. You know, hiring, getting the right people on the bus is very easy to say. It's much more difficult to do. Once you've got them on the bus, I mean, the next challenge then is to create an environment in which they can perform effectively, in which they can thrive and do their job. I mean, what's your take on creating that environment? How do you go about building a place, for want of a better way of describing it, where people can do their jobs well, can feel good about it, and so on?
I can speak to how at least it was for me before when I was employed by somebody else. I think the most important thing I try to do is give people as much freedom as possible. I do not like to micromanage. I think good people don't like to be micromanaged, and if you do that, it's probably counterproductive. So I think the best possible scenario is finding people who are really good, and then giving them as much freedom to do what they want to do. And I think the job of the CEO, or I guess the person managing them, is I guess to kind of steer them maybe in the right direction, but ultimately I think give them as much freedom, and especially in the sort of thing that we do, which is you know we're really innovating and we're really building products from zero. That becomes even more important.
Yeah.
Obviously, these things depend on the role, but generally, it's to give people as much freedom as possible and make them feel valued, right? If all you're doing is just giving instructions, people do this, do this, do this. Again, smart people will probably be turned off by that at some point.
Yeah.
That's what I would say.
And you mentioned the fact that you're fully remote, your team's all over the world. I mean, that presents us another challenge, doesn't it? Managing people remotely. So, I mean, what's your thoughts on that? I mean, a lot of people I speak to, oh no, I want them in the office again. You know, which I thought, well, I thought that would have gone after COVID, but there's still a bunch of people that think that they need to have people in the office. You're doing it completely the opposite way. I mean, what's the advantage to that for you, and how do you do that in a way that creates this space that people can perform in?
Yeah. True. So, look, I mean, my first thoughts on that is that talent is distributed all over the world, right? If I, I grew up in London. Let's just say I wanted to set up I'm based a bit all over, right, at this moment, but let's just say I wanted to set up an office in London. I am now constrained to talent in London,
Yeah,
which has its own problems. Talent in London is also happens to be quite expensive, right? Um, so I think that's the first thing is that I really do believe there is talent all over the world,
yeah.
uh, if you look in the right places and know the right people. Secondly, so what was the follow-up?
It's the thing about the distributed leadership, the fact that you've got people all over the place. How do you,
Uh,
if you like, manage people remotely when, as you've already said, you may not have met them face to face?
Correct. I think everyone has their own systems for that. I mean, people talk about Slack, Discord. We have all that stuff. Um, I think having live async communication channels like a Discord, like a Slack, where people can respond quickly and speak to each other is really important. Then obviously you have project management stuff, so people can keep a track of things. But generally just stand-ups and like calls. I don't like to bombard people with calls that I work with. Especially software engineers don't like to do calls for no reasons. That's quite one thing. But I think generally, if you hire correctly first, then you probably don't fall into these sorts of issues of having to think about managing that sort of a workforce. If you can hire the right people, I think people can sort of manage themselves.
Yeah.
I try and abide by that, but it's not easy. It's definitely not
Yeah,
easy.
no, I was going to say, I mean, I would agree with that, but I know from my own experience, it's not easy. Let's talk a bit about customers. I mean, in terms of how your customers for this business, I mean, what does a great customer look like to you?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think so. I mean, obviously, I mean, the bigger the ad spend, the better, right? That's that's kind of how we price. Um, But generally, if they have a good understanding of Google Ads already, then that helps. When we were our first set of customers were quite mixed, but generally knew what they were doing with Google Ads. So that made the whole process a lot easier, right? That meant that they can then understand what Grass is doing, like pretty intuitively from day zero, and just kind of get on with it. Um, Now we've opened up self-serve and sort of have a whole much more diverse range of customers. And a lot of people who are not really so experienced with Google Ads, that opens up a whole new set of problems, right? Because they may not have the Google Ads basics in place, and then also then not understand what Grass is trying to do on top of that. So I think a good customer is somebody who is keen to try and improve their performance. There are things that are not working, but they want to improve them. They have a healthy budget in order to invest and scale into this channel, and also have a good understanding already of Google Ads. I think those three things.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, what you're saying is that I mean, they've got money, obviously, but they're people that understand how your technology can solve their problem.
Exactly.
You don't need to explain the problem to them if you see what I mean.
Correct.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
Right.
And the other thing that's interesting about your situation is that you work with people, not just teams, but you work with staff. Sorry, you work with customers remotely. I mean, how do you go about building relationships with people? Which again, I guess if you have, I mean, my assumption is a lot of your customers you've not met face to face.
I haven't met any of my customers face to face ever before. Um,
How do you
so
build relationships with them in that context? Because that can't be easy.
not easy, no. So before we had our self-serve product and it was all sort of manual onboarding, it was a really high touch approach. And I think there what we have for all of our customers, the big spending customers, is we have a dedicated Slack channel for them where it's myself, maybe someone else from the team, a support member, plus anyone on their side who manages Google Ads. So it's like one big group chat where we can talk about Google Ads all day and like see what's happening in their account and help them out. Um, and that I think is critical. It's been so important. I think without doing that, firstly, the product would not be where it's at today because we wouldn't have had that feedback. So
Mm.
doing that from day zero has been unbelievably important. But I think generally that Slack live chat people really like. People really, really like that. We'll also do calls here and there, but generally that is the cleanest way. And that's why generally we also have almost zero churn, especially with the big customers, because I think the service we provide is quite high tier in that regard.
Mm. And what would a good customer say about you?
I hope that they would say that we are very proactive. Um, I think that's the key thing is we're very proactive, very detail oriented, um, and ultimately caring about their business. I think that's really important. I think when a customer feels that you are genuine, like properly invested in helping them
Mm.
towards success, I think that creates a very good feeling and also a good level of trust. And I think trust is also something that's really important, especially in what we do, right? We're deploying AI agents to go ahead and do a whole bunch of stuff on their campaigns. That is money, right? There's many types of different software out there. Like people are spending not only the fees for grass, but also lots of money through Google Ads, right? So they're trusting that what we do will perform for them.
Yeah.
And results are not always immediate. It can take a week, 2 weeks before you start to see the uptick and what we're doing. So I think trust is really important. That's something we do with everyone. Really
I mean,
important.
it's interesting your point about being proactive because I mean, it seems to me it's very difficult to build relationships if you're reactive.
Correct.
If you're proactive, if you make an effort to go out
Yeah.
and build those relationships, you're far more likely to have a positive outcome, it would seem to me. But not everyone sees it that way. So,
Yeah.
you know.
Correct.
So let me talk about different markets. I mean, you've got customers all over the shop. I mean, some of the CEOs I say, if I'm going to go into a new market, let's say I'm going to go into the US. I spend time out there. I meet partners. I, get boots on the ground. I, rent a office. All the rest of
Yeah.
it. They invest a lot of time on, if you like, developing a market entry strategy,
Mm.
and then they put a chunk of money behind it to follow through on that. And then I've spoken to other CEOs that said, well, I was approached by this person in Berlin. I just thought, well, I'll go to Berlin and I'll do some stuff in Germany and build I mean, on that spectrum, where are you and why?
So I think I don't think we, even regardless of how big we get, I think we're always going to try to keep that remote, fully distributed approach.
Yeah.
Um, I'm a big believer that, everything on the internet more and more is just happening that way. I've done business with people yeah, I've had people wire us a very large chunk of money after meeting me for like 10 minutes on a Google Meets. That's happened before quite a few times.
Wow.
Yeah. Um,
Can you introduce me to those people? I mean, I'd like to meet them.
Yeah, so I think these things happen. But I think the way that the only way you can make that work is if you have a good reputation in the first place, right? Reputation, I think, is everything. And that's not just reputation like what your customers think of you and may say to their friends and that sort of thing, but online reputation, right? Like what are people saying about you in these forums, right? What are people saying about you on Reddit, on Quora, in these niche marketing forums? That stuff really matters. Um, so I think
And
our
do you
focus
spend a lot of time, sorry, just to follow that point, do you spend a lot of time monitoring that or?
We don't have like proper systems in place, but I'll definitely check it. And I started checking it when I had a very big Google Ads agency owner approach us for a demo. These guys are very well known in the space. We don't really work with agencies yet, but anyway, they approached us for a demo, etc., etc. And I asked, "How'd you hear about us?" And we were in some extreme. They heard about us in some extremely obscure marketing forum that only has like 1,000 members, and it's like all like OGs of the space. And someone had spoken about us there, and I don't know how we'd landed there. Um, and that's when I understood the power of these things because yeah, it's really important. So I think if you focus on that, but that then goes back to just building the best product possible.
Yeah.
In our
And the
particular
trust
case,
piece as well.
trust piece, all trust. Trust, building the best product possible, customer service. I think these are really the key things I focus on. Also, just happens that since we open up self-serve, all of our referrals are coming from ChatGPT and Google search. We are doing nothing on paid ads, which is ironic because we're a paid ads company.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but at a certain point, again, because we fully bootstrap this, so I still own 100% of the company. I'm going to try to keep it that way. At a certain point, we're going to go ham on paid ads, and we'll be using Groas to advertise Groas. That's going to
Nice.
happen. But for now, it's all coming in from organic, which is great.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, one of the other interesting things that I think often comes up when you're in the process of going international, going global, is the kind of cultural nuances. I mean, doing business in New York is very different from doing business in Berlin or Singapore or whatever. I mean, what's your take on those kind of cultural nuances? Because if you get them wrong, that can undermine people's trust in you if they don't
For
feel
sure.
that So, what's your take on those sorts of challenges?
It's true. It's definitely a real thing. I've seen. I think the easiest and US UK is probably the easiest comparison, and will probably resonate the most with viewers. It's also, I think, really where most of our customers come from. It's split between mostly US, but we have some good UK ones as well. Um, you are right. There's definitely a lot of differences in the way people approach things, people approach work.
Mm.
I don't claim to have all the right answers on this stuff. I think the only right approach is always just to treat people with respect. Like if you approach people with respect and you value their time, and you're very considerate and you try to build as much trust as possible, all of those differences should hopefully kind of melt away. Because at the end of the day, even if there are, we're still all people, right? We're still all the same thing. So
Mm.
that's kind of how I think about it, is always approaching everything from a position of respect and trust.
I mean, it's interesting you say that because I mean, I'm a great believer that if you do it that way, even if things go wrong and you get something wrong, you
Yeah,
misinterpret something. I mean, people will give you a bit of slack
correct.
because they recognize that you're not trying to, cause them a problem or undermine them
Okay,
or whatever. So that respect piece, I think, is pretty. It's a
correct.
really good point, actually, pretty important.
Yep.
You know, and the other thing that interests me is as you're growing and going into more markets. I mean, is the, I mean, how did you work out the right way to grow your business? I mean, how did
Yeah.
you figure that out?
Again, I don't claim to know all the answers. It was still a work in progress. I think when we first when we first started Grass, my background as well was in ecom.
Yeah.
I know that ecom space very well. Set up lots of different businesses there. So I was first thinking that we're going to target Grass just to e-commerce customers, right? And so when we first opened up Grass, um, I even did actually 50 or 100 cold emails to like some e-commerce brands that I knew of, pitching them because that I was like, okay, we're going to position Groas as that. Um, but what happened is people were finding us, but they weren't just ecom customers. They were, doing all sorts of things in all these crazy industries. Some people are renting dumpsters, right? It's a great business. Um, like we have all these different things. So now it's less about I'm going after one particular niche in one particular geography. It's more about trying to make our message resonate with anyone that just runs Google Ads. I think that's what we're trying to do because we found that now the customer base is so diverse. Having said that, it is general startup wisdom to when you're first going after something to super like niche down into your
Yeah,
ICP.
yeah,
I
yeah.
agree with that, and I was aware of this as well. Um, but I think if I would have gone down that approach slash go down this approach now, it would be doing us probably a disservice actually.
But what you're saying to me is the niche is people that are using Google Ads who want to do it better, faster, cheaper.
The issue is it's not a niche because it's so big.
No,
There's
well,
a
okay, I
lot of
get
people.
that, but
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
you're right. It's that's kind of how I had to broaden it out just to that. But the problem is basically there's a lot of people running Google Ads, and also from all sorts of places, right? You have some people in really big companies who are just PPC managers who aren't really super invested. Like their personal job performance, like they can just kind of tick along and it's fine. They're not necessarily going to go out their way to try find tools to make them better. But then you might have a small business owner whose income relies on Google Ads, maybe. They are super invested in Google Ads. They really care, right? And that's actually probably the first segment of customers we got. It's people who really actually cared
yeah.
about making their
Um,
performance
I
better.
mean, one of the other to come back to your point about the fact you're in a vast market.
Mm.
I mean, there's also a boatload of competitors. Now, I know you're looking to take them on. I mean, what is it you think that gives you that kind of edge over the others? I mean, I know there's an AI is giving you an edge at the moment. That won't last probably though, will it? I mean, other people will be able to use AI
True.
to copy that. I mean, what is it you think that's going to give your business the edge in the longer run?
It's true. In terms of competitors, I don't know if it's good or bad thinking. I try not even think about them, like, genuinely at all.
Right.
Um, it's just time spent thinking about the wrong things. All I can do is focus on us and making us the best product possible. Like that is my only focus and anything I think about. Um, in terms of there are existing tools like PPC tools that have been around for a while. I think the key thing is none of those are AI native, if that makes sense, right?
Okay.
They built their tools 5, 10, in some cases 15 years ago. Um, and they are doing some optimization of Google Ads, but it's more rule-based optimizations. I.e., if this happens, we should do this. If this happens,
Mm.
we haven't built it that way at all, right? We've built it using AI such that it's not necessarily rule-based, but it's understanding holistically what's going on in your campaigns to try and make the performance better. So I think that's probably the key thing is that we've built everything from scratch being AI native. That's possibly quite interesting.
Mm.
And ultimately, I think another piece that people sometimes like overlook in SaaS is yes, product matters, but also branding matters, right?
Mm.
Story matters.
Mm.
Um, and I think we've done a pretty good job at that so far, and we're gonna try keep doing that.
Okay. And the other thing that interests me is this thing about how businesses evolve. I mean, has your business evolved over time, and particularly as you've gone into new markets? I mean, has that impacted on how you've built the business or developed the business?
Trying to hire more people, I guess, is the key thing.
Yeah.
And when you do that, then obviously things change within a company, right? Um, like at first, it may just be you're speaking on WhatsApp with one or two people, and now you need like proper systems in place. So I think the big thing is now trying to put in systems, and even just systems in terms of how we build software, right? That's a big one, actually. That's a really big one because when we were first starting out, it'd be like I would say, look, we need to build this now. Like let's implement this feature. Let's just go at it. We have a day. Let's just right. No process, no nothing. Um, the problem is, as a lot of people who built software will know, is that can't really last or scale because then
Yes.
the software will break,
Otherwise,
right?
you create all sorts of problems, don't you?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that's also something else that we're now in the process of doing a lot more of is building processes around how we do things, which I hate, by the way. I actually hate this. I don't like it, but it's necessary ultimately. If you want to do something that scales seriously and doesn't break, you ultimately do need systems. In a business, in software, you do need some kind of assistance, some kind of systems, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it helps people get onto the same page, doesn't it? Those sorts of things, and learn from each other. Actually, if you've got processes that work and that you can then sharpen up, people, it's a vehicle for learning as well. I always think.
Yeah.
Tell me about the business model that you've developed. I mean, is the AI driven, AI first model that you've developed? Does that have a different business model? Do you think to other businesses in the same space?
So our pricing is the one thing that's actually changed so much
Hmm.
since we started. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's evolved completely. And I think we're now at a place where I like it, and we're gonna stick with this. But it's taken a lot of iterations.
And why is it so? Just explain why that's happened, though. So you
Yeah,
started out saying, "I'm going to do it this way," and you've arrived at another place. I
yeah,
mean, was it not working properly? I mean, how did that iteration take place?
yeah. So my thesis, and this is still my, I think they do think this will happen. So I mean, as we know, SaaS is just a monthly subscription. You pay up front, you know what you're getting. There's certain deliverables, and everyone's happy. That's been around for 15, 20, 25 years.
Yeah.
All good. I think now we're in a very new era of software where it's like AI-based software. And my thesis was when we were starting Grass was that we would charge usage-based type, a usage-based
Okay.
type of agreement, which we translated to a percentage of ad spend, like a strict percentage of ad spend. Let's say you spent 10K a week through Grass, we would charge that percentage. Now, the more you spent, the lower that percentage would get, but it was like fixed percentage week on week. So if you spend nothing 1 week through Grass, then we wouldn't get paid, right? Um, that, in my opinion, that's actually really clean and the cleanest way of doing it because ultimately, if your campaigns are performing, you'll just pause, you'll just
Yeah.
not,
Yeah.
and I think that's really fair. So that's why I built it originally that way. Now, what we found, and again, this has gone through a lot of iterations, what we have found is that people still actually prefer the SaaS. They're just more comfortable with it. Why? Because it's been around for 20, 25 years. That's how people are accustomed to paying for software, which is that you have a promise that this is going to do. So now we're basically going back to like typical SaaS. Now, I am seeing other AI companies do this strict usage-based model, which I actually still think is the future. I think 5, 10 years from now, that will be the norm and people will be very comfortable with it. But for now, since we switched to the typical SaaS pricing, you pay up front for the month, this is what you're going to get. We are still roughly pricing based on ad spend, but just doing it slightly different. Um, People, I mean, the signups have just done this, right? Like they've
Wow.
just, yeah, yeah, it's been
It's interesting how people respond more positively to the familiar, isn't it?
correct, correct. Even if the other approach may even be more cost effective to them, right?
Yeah.
And keeps the incentives super aligned. Because that's how confident I was in what Grass was doing at the start. I said, I don't care if you pause, we don't get paid. That's how confident I was. But it's just turned out that that's what's really worked.
Wow. Oh,
Interesting.
interesting. Yeah. I mean, it's funny how these things turn out, isn't it? So
Yep.
you've been pretty successful. I mean, what would you attribute that success to?
I still think we're definitely at ground zero. I always say that. I think that the thing that's helped us is two things. One is being so close to the customer, especially in the beginning stage. And I still do it to this day. I'm still answering support tickets, even for people spending very small amounts. I'm still there because what they say is useful. So I'm glued to that screen all day long. Um, yeah, I would say number one is being so focused on the customer, helping them, trying to build a good relationship with them. Yeah, I think that's just number one. I think if you don't do that, you're going to
I mean,
struggle.
if you don't look after customers, you haven't got a business, have you? Really?
Correct. Correct. But I see a lot of like software companies, right? Because it's
Lose sight
software
of
and
that.
it's not a service company. They're like, ah, well,
Yeah, they
let me
lose
get on with
sight of
it.
that. Yeah,
Exactly. But I've always thought from day one, like, if people are giving you their money, out of respect, you have to be there for them and make sure they get the results they want. So that's the first thing. Being very close to the customer, and to this day, still doing that. Um, and then two is ultimately, I think now what we're starting to do, and now starting to get right, is things around distribution, things around getting people to find us fully organically. I think we're doing a pretty good job at that. We're still at, again, ground zero because we've only started probably doing that as about maybe a month ago, but it's working. It's working. So yeah, let's see how that evolves. But I think those two things.
sure. And Muhammad Ali famously said, "You don't lose if you get knocked down. You lose if you stay down."
Mm.
I mean, have you ever had a situation when you thought, "Oh my God, this whole thing's going to go belly up"? I mean, have you ever had that kind of moment on on the journey that you've been on?
All the time, all the time, every day. Seriously, every day. I think there's a lot of inherent risks as well to
Yeah, yeah,
to
yeah.
our business model. We rely on Google. We rely on like Google can technically shut us off at any moment. Like this is important to understand. We rely on the API to connect to customer accounts. I think that was a big fear, especially in the beginning stages for me. I still don't know why I embarked and went ahead with it anyway. Um, but I think the good thing is now we actually have some friends in there. They like what we're doing because they know two things. One is we're bringing more people onto Google Ads, like people who weren't running ads before, maybe find out about Gross. Oh, I maybe should run Google Ads. And two, we're helping big customers spend more through Google anyway, which is
Yeah.
their business model because we make them more profitable. So we're now starting to like be friends and it's all good. But every day, things will go wrong and yeah, it can be
Yeah.
scary.
And when you look back on those mistakes, problems, issues, I mean,
Mm,
what would you say is the biggest lesson that you've learned?
it's tough. It's tough. It's a tough question. I think the thing is, a lot of the mistakes are very hard to foresee, right? They're things that they are unknowns. They're things we couldn't have known. I think probably if I'm being quite hard on myself and the team, I think probably trying to, yeah, I think I would say this instead of because being so, I think default aggressive, attack, 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 push forward. Sometimes you need to just hold on, take a step back,
Mm.
relax. Don't necessarily try and move so fast. Let's calm down and try to get things right instead of just trying to attack. Now, I've actually got a younger brother who's behind the scenes. No one knows of him, but he's doing a lot for us behind the scenes. And it's funny because I'm that way. I'm the attack, aggression, let's
Right.
break things and figure out. He's the complete opposite. So we clash a
Right.
lot. He's the complete opposite. He's like, no, we need to plan. This has to be perfect. Um, but having that, I think, especially more recently, has been good
So good
for
counterbalance.
yes, because we're very different. We're so different.
Yeah. I mean, it comes back to the point we were talking about earlier on about you having difference.
Yeah,
You don't want everyone doing that, looking and thinking the same way, do you?
for sure.
And if you were to, well, sorry, I'll ask you another question about what you've learned in a second. But when you look back on all those things, what are the achievements? I mean, you've achieved a lot of stuff, actually. What are the achievements that you're most proud of?
I think if we can keep to our promise of making people more money with Google Ads, then I'm really happy about that. That's like that for me, and doing that in a very cost-effective way using AI, I think is really cool. That's something that what we're doing now would not have been possible 5 years ago to build,
Mm.
right? So we truly have, I think, built something very new. It's not just, let's say, like an accounting. We haven't just come up with some accounting software that, I think we've done something quite cool. And doing it using very new technology and some interesting things. So that for me is a cool achievement.
Yeah, no, I'm sure. And if you were to offer some advice, this is to come back to the learning piece. If you were to offer some advice to somebody that's starting out on a journey like yours, I mean, what advice would you offer them?
Yeah, I'm not a fan of like giving advice because I don't think I've achieved enough yet to be giving out proper advice. But I think the key thing is you just have to do. A lot of people I think get stuck in the loop of listening, planning,
Just
and
kind
then
of ready, fire, aim, that kind of method.
correct, correct, because you'll get feedback. Like you will learn in that process. And in my opinion, your ability for success depends pretty much completely on your ability to learn in real time from what's going wrong.
Yeah.
That's my opinion. You can plan all you want, but the world is a dynamic place.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, that's a very good point, I think. I mean, the last point about the world is a dynamic place. I mean, people's expectations are always changing, markets are always evolving. I mean, the sitting still is actually going backwards, isn't it? So, I mean, I think
yeah,
that's a very well made point, actually.
yeah,
One final question, which is not so much about you and your business, but about the world that you're in. I mean, all the talk about at the moment is how AI is going to. I mean, the people like me think it's going to have lots of positive benefits, and there's a whole lot of other people think it's going to be a load of negative things come out of it. I mean, what's your take on the way that AI is going to change the world over the next few years? I mean, do you have a sense of the potential things that could be happening? I mean, what's your view on those?
yeah. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, or I'll be very honest. I think it's quite scary. Truthfully, I
For a
really
lot of
think
people, certainly. Yeah.
for I really anyone who does anything at a desk at a computer. You should start trying to plan ahead. I really think it's quite scary. We're seeing it already, right? We are literally seeing software engineering is such a good example of this, where look at the number of software engineering jobs available. That these charts exist, and you can see it. And since ChatGPT came out, etc., it's just shrunk, right? It's completely shrunk. Um, it's going to change a lot of jobs, like lawyers, doctors, like jobs that have been around for a long time and people are viewed as super prestigious. It's going to commoditize a lot of that work, and also a lot of people will then say, yeah, it's going to create new jobs. I'm not sure which ones. I don't know. I think maybe in a data center somewhere. I think the physical stuff that's still going to be around. I don't. I think the idea of some robo plumber turning up to your house and fixing that's still a while away.
Mm.
Hardware is a lot harder to get right compared to software.
Yeah.
Um,
It's also more expensive, isn't it? I mean, that's the other thing.
a lot
I
more
mean,
expensive. Yeah,
I mean, I was talking to somebody that a while ago who was building robotics stuff to go up onto the space station,
mm,
and because they use robotics to do a lot of stuff on the space station for obvious reasons, because it's very risky putting humans out there.
yeah,
Um, but it's not cheap.
yeah,
I mean, it's not cheap at all. I mean, that's the other problem, isn't it? I mean, you want somebody, a robo plumber to come and fix your sink. I mean, that's fine if you've got a lot of money,
correct,
So.
correct. So yeah, I mean, overall, a little scared, but I think I mean, a little scared in the short term, but I think long term, humanity always finds a way
Yeah.
of getting back on track. I hope so. Let's see, but yeah, short term, a lot of jobs will be a bit more at risk. I think.
Impact today. Yeah, yeah. David, thank you for taking a bit of time to come and have a chat with us. I mean, I think what you're doing is really interesting. I'm sure other people will find it interesting as well. I mean, Google Ads is such a huge thing, as you've already pointed out. I mean, pretty much every company is linked, involved in it in one way or another, if they're trying to market what they do to
Right.
consumers or whatever. So I can see why it's a really massive thing. So thank you for coming, telling us about your experiences and your approach and the source and how you see that world. I mean, it's absolutely fascinating. So thank you, and hopefully we'll catch up again soon, eh?
Appreciate it. Thanks a lot, Paul. Appreciate it.
Cheers, David. Bye bye.
Bye bye.